Hey everyone, what's going on? I am Gregg Sussman, joined today by Gabe Morency as he debuts Fight Island. The preview right here, Gabe. What's up, man?
I'm fired up for some fights, Greg. Let's do this thing.
All right, let's get into it. And our first fight here at Fight Island, we're breaking it down. It's Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman. It's Masvidal that is the heavy underdog, and it's the fighter that you like, Gabe. Why are you in on the heavy underdog in this battle?
Well, I'll tell you what, it seems to me like it's been a couple of years since the most interesting man in the world campaign from Dos Equis has been running on television. But I think now it's a good time to bring it back. And Jorge Masvidal can be the most interesting man in the world. And I just imagine a narrator when the UFC looks for a fighter on 1 week's notice to go to Abu Dhabi. They call Jorge Masvidal. They show Masvidal getting his bags ready in Miami, looking good in front of the mirror, getting ready to go to the Middle East. That's how cool this guy is. And, listen, he's the BMF. And I don't think we're allowed to say what the BMF stands for, but it's a badass mother, let's say, trucker, so to speak. And that's the name of the belt that this guy has. And that's why he's a dangerous opponent right now. Listen, full credit to Dana White for making this whole Fight Island thing happen. Although I do want to note, they've fought in here before, Greg. They've fought in the same facility before. This is the first time they've sort of built a training camp and a center and are setting up shop, and they're calling it Fight Island. But they've actually held fights in Abu Dhabi before in the past. But credit to Dana White for making this happen. And listen, you could argue that this card was already stacked. You already had 2 other championship fights on this card. Was there really a need to make Usman fight someone as dangerous as Masvidal on a week's notice? So credit to the UFC for trying to make UFC 251 as big as it is, and credit to Usman as well, guys. A lot of champions would say there's no way in hell I'm fighting a guy on a week's notice, and especially a guy that's the complete opposite of Gilbert Burns, who Usman was preparing for. Gilbert Burns is not a reckless fighter. Gilbert Burns is a cautious fighter. Gilbert Burns has good wrestling. It's a completely different style of fight for Usman right now, getting Masvidal. Now, I'll tell you, Greg, those guys you've seen outside the Port Authority, panhandling and asking people for money? That's because they bet against Kamaru Usman too much in the past, all right? I mean, the guy's 11-0 in the UFC, Greg. So I was going to say, nobody gets rich betting against Kamaru Usman. No. You don't get rich. You get poor, and you get poor really fast. But, man, this is a big number. And what I like about Masvidal in this fight, sometimes you got to roll the dice and take an underdog in life. You got to take a chance. We're getting a nice price here in the 230 range, Greg. And Masvidal, quite frankly, doesn't care, all right? And I don't need to tell people, oh, you know what, he fought in Kimbo Slice backyard videotapes in the old days of Miami. You already know that. Nobody cares about that stuff, all right? That's low-hanging fruit. What I do find interesting about this, I saw an interview with Dustin Poirier the other night. And you remember we saw Dustin Poirier, great fight against Hooker. Masvidal trained with Dustin Poirier. Poirier said, this guy was sparring with me. He was in the gym every day for 5 weeks. And Masvidal's so cool, Greg, that Poirier even said, he goes, I don't know if this dude knew something, but he was training as if he was fighting Usman the whole time. He was ready for this the whole time. It's not short notice for him. He's actually been preparing. He's ready for it. And I'm going to roll the dice with the hottest fighter in the world right now. You know what? If you go to the casino and you're at the roulette wheel and it keeps on coming up black, don't bet on red. I'm taking Masvidal. I guess you can say about both fighters, to be honest. But I'm going to roll the dice with Masvidal. And listen, we're taking 2+ money aspects in this fight, guys. So we got Masvidal at plus 230. And then we're going to go fight to go the distance. Listen, if there's one criticism of Usman is that he's not the most exciting fighter. That's why he wins all the time. He's got an extremely high fight IQ. He's got great wrestling. He's one of these great wrestlers that likes to stand and trade now, but that's dangerous. So Usman's going to be looking for takedowns, and Masvidal's tough, all right? Masvidal hasn't been finished in like 13 years. You might beat him, but he's not tapping out, and you're not knocking him out. So if this goes Usman's way a lot, it's going to go the distance. And we're getting that at plus money as well. So why not step up to the table and give me 2+ money bets? Masvidal plus 230, fight to go the distance plus 124.
Gabe, as you mentioned before, you get poor by betting against Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, now I'm doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So hopefully I don't see you standing outside Port Authority later this week after betting on Jorge Masvidal. But like you said, he is a fighter. He's not going to go down easy. And even if he loses at that plus money, that this fight's going to go the distance, at least you'll get a little bit there. It's going to be a good one between Usman and Masvidal here at Fight Island UFC 251. Up next, we move on to Max Holloway. He's the underdog in this fight against Alexander Volkanovski. Volkanovski minus 220 over on FanDuel. Gabe, who do you like in this one?
It's a Russian takeover, all right? This is what's going on right now in the UFC, if you notice. And it comes in waves. I remember years ago, all the good fighters and all the best fighters were mostly Brazilian, or a lot of them were Brazilian. But then they started testing for steroids and things changed, okay? So things, they sort of come in waves with this stuff. Right now, it's Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe, all right? You see, Ukraine, Russia, Kazakhstan, etc. All the stands, pretty much. You see a stand at the end of the country when a guy's fighting, you're like, I don't know if I want to bet against this guy right now. Volkanovski, another killer, Greg. This guy's just mean, fast, strong, high fight IQ, aggressive, super aggressive. I'm a big Max Holloway fan, man. And I think he's donating money to like food banks in Hawaii, even with some of his money that he's making this weekend. Listen, I'm a big Max Holloway fan, and Max has been good to me over the years. But with that being stated, these guys already fought, and we saw Volkanovski chop them down, man, Redwood style. One vicious leg kick after another, and Max's leg, he couldn't walk by the end of the fight. Now, the thing is, and everybody's talking about, well, Max is going to adjust for those deadly kicks. Yeah, he's going to adjust for the deadly kicks, but Volkanovski and his camp are going to adjust for Max adjusting right now. And we talk about fight IQ, and we talk about corners. There's a lot of talk about corners in the UFC as of late. Mike Perry had his girlfriend and his girlfriend's friend in his corner in his camp. Well, I'll tell you what, Volkanovski's known for having some of the smarter coaches and camps in all of mixed martial arts. These guys break things down. They analyze things. They come at you with fresh game plans. They're going to be totally prepared. Very football-like, Greg. It's almost like facing Belichick. Well, last time they ran the ball 52 times on us, so we better be ready to stop the run. And then he throws the ball 48 times. Volkanovski's good enough to mix his game up here. It's going to be a fun fight. Both these guys got a ton of heart. Max Holloway's got a ton of freaking heart. I wouldn't want to fight this guy if I had a baseball bat, aluminum in my hands. But with all that being stated, I'm going to go Volkanovski to win this fight. And I think this fight's going to go the distance as well. And remember, people, we're not betting the numbers. We're betting the outcomes. Give me Volkanovski to win and this fight to go the distance.
As Gabe said, so much heart in both of these fighters, Volkanovski and Max Holloway. Holloway has won Gabe a ton of money through the years. This time, he's going to win Gabe money by losing to Volkanovski this Saturday night. But this fight will go the distance. You'll make money in both categories there. Volkanovski to win and the fight to go all the way.
It's going to be a fun one, Greg. It really is going to be a fun one. Listen, two of Volkanovski's last three fights have gone the distance, including the first one versus Holloway. Meanwhile, Max, his last three have gone to the scorecards as well. Hard not to pull the trigger that the judges are going to be involved here.
Let's move on to our next fight. It's Jose Aldo taking on Peter Yan. Plus 182 is Aldo. Yan is minus 240 here, Gabe. You like Peter Yan. We're talking about Eastern European throughout the night. Peter Yan, minus 240. You like the favorite?
Yeah, I'm going to have to, Greg. And despite the fact that Jose Aldo is one of my favorite fighters of all time, and I'm not just saying that. Like, I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of him personally. I'm a big fan of his fight game. I think the guy's a legend. He's one of the best fighters in the history of mixed martial arts. But I'll tell you what, he's an old 33, Greg. He's an old 33. He's 33 years old, but he's been fighting for a long time, dude. Like, this guy's been fighting since basically like he's 16, okay? 15, 16 in the streets of Brazil. I think his first pro fight when he was like 17/17-ish, 18-ish, supposed to be 18. But, this guy basically grew up drinking puddle water in the streets of Brazil, turned himself into a world champion, didn't lose for like 5-6 years or whatever in a row. So I could gush, for hours about Jose Aldo. He shouldn't be in a cage with Peter Yan. All right? He's an old 33. And the thing is, Cejudo, Greg, Henry Cejudo was such a was so great and called out his shot because he respected Aldo. He goes, I always wanted to fight Jose Aldo. I want to fight Jose Aldo. So Aldo was basically in line for a title shot, even though he didn't deserve it. And then Cejudo retires, right? And then Dana White's like, I don't know. And everyone knows Peter Yan's going to win. But they're like, whatever. We already told Aldo he's going to get a title shot again. So let's give Aldo a title shot. Although the odds don't say so, Greg. And as you mentioned, Aldo, plus 182 or so. That's not going to go down with the Miracle on Ice as, it's one of the greatest upsets in the history of sports. I'll tell you what, this will be one of the greatest accomplishments in the history of sports if Jose Aldo manages to win this championship belt, man. I'm telling you, it'd be that good of a story, but it's not going to happen. We see 2020 isn't about happy endings, all right? This isn't a trip with Robert Kraft. So here we are right now, and Aldo 2-4 in his last 6 fights, going to be overmatched against a super aggressive young fighter who's 6 years younger, who's just coming into his own right now, who's ultra dynamic. It's a bad spot for my main man, Jose Aldo. Give me Peter Yan and the magic carpet ride.
As Gabe said, 2020, not all about the happy endings here, unless you're Robert Kraft. Peter Yan, the heavy favorite. Jose Aldo, sentimental favorite, has this title shot. As Gabe said, it would be just a monumental upset, and he's not going for it. Peter Yan, minus 240 is the pick. One last fight to get to here, Gabe, and that's Jessica Andrade. She is the underdog in this fight against Namajunas. Minus 198 for Namajunas. Gabe, you going with the favorite or the underdog?
Yeah. Just call me Connie Chalk, Greg. Call me Captain Chalk. What do you want me to do? You want me to give you? First off, I'm breaking down the main events here, guys. All right. And if there's a bunch of prelims where I think they're all going to win, trust me, Greg can attest to this. We've talked about a lot of no-name fighters, man,
Absolutely.
over the last couple of months, okay? But what am I going to do? You give 6 picks, and I'm not going to give the main events? I look at this card, and I think it's a chalky card. I say this. I say this every week when we do these videos, guys, for the UFC. I always say, I bet the fights, not the numbers, okay? I'm not going to bet a fighter just for the sake of it because I'm getting a number. As I say that, as I gave you guys Jorge Masvidal already because of the number. But hey, listen, Masvidal is a badass though. So where I'm going with this is here we have Rose Namajunas against Andrade, and I don't know if I'm just that big of a fight fan or I'm not good at my job, but I'm a professional, Greg. But I actually watched this fight again, and I watched Volkanovski and Holloway. It's my new thing. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch the first fight. If fighters have fought before, least I can do is spend 15 minutes watching it over to refresh my memory about what happened in the fight. And people remember Rose getting dropped on her head basically Monday Night Nitro or Monday Night Raw style. All right? Real wrestling and not pretty. Like when wrestlers, Greg, don't know how to wrestle, like Goldberg or Brock Lesnar and these wrestlers that hurt other people. That's basically what Andrade did to Namajunas. In MMA, you see slams and stuff. Greg, she dropped her on her head, bro. Literally slammed her, picked her up and dropped her on her head. And it's legal though. There's no rule against throwing someone down the way that she did. She just caught Rose off guard, slammed her down on her head, and that was it. It was over. But with all that being stated, Rose was picking her apart like she was picking roses in the park, all right? Rose was picking her apart in that fight. Rose Namajunas, another fighter with a very smart fight IQ. She's had time. She's had over a year to process her getting dropped on her head. And another thing is, Rose has been through a lot over the years, okay? She was in the van when Conor McGregor threw the dolly. She was actually glass was flying around her. She didn't take it well. And it wasn't about a lawsuit. She actually got rattled by that. She's had losses in her personal life. She's a deep thinker, Rose. I don't think she was mentally 100% in the last fight. And even with that being stated, she still picked her apart before she got dropped on her head. That's the reason she's favored again, bro. Like, Andrade is a tough girl. And look, I mean, she murdered Rose the last time they fought. But, Greg, it was sort of like a walk-off home run. Yeah, you hit a walk-off home run, but I'm going to go back to the best closer in the game, tomorrow night again. And I'm not saying Rose is the best in the game, but I think she's good enough to get revenge for getting dropped on her head. Give me Rose Namajunas to win.
Rose Namajunas is the heavy favorite, despite, as you mentioned, getting dropped on her head in the last fight. Andrade can do it. She's done it before. This is going to be a good fight as well. But Rose Namajunas, the pick from Gabe Morency, as the heavy favorite here on UFC 251. That's going to do it for us here for our UFC preview. Gabe, we appreciate the time. Good luck on Saturday night.
Always a pleasure. May the winners be yours, guys.
Absolutely. Have fun watching the fight. The debut of Fight Island. You're not going to want to miss this one. For Gabe Morency, I'm Gregg Sussman. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Stay safe, everybody.